Hello, my name is Tash Mitch and I'm a chakra alchemist, and I basically mix and merge energy work and chakra balancing together. I'm a business and life coach. And today I've got Layla May with me, who I think that this woman's work is just absolutely stunning in the way that she brings lightness and energy and vibration to earth, and allows us to actually really see how we can playfully connect with earth energy, how we could connect to earth energy in a really creative and arty kind of way. She takes people in on sort of like workshops where they're out in nature and really sort of connecting to nature in such a stunning way, and also jewelry maker and energy worker. So many strings to the bow, and it's all pointing towards energy work and pointing towards earthy, bringing the earth energy through. So welcome. It's an honor to have you, Layla.
Thank you. It's a real honour to be here with you today. Yeah.
So with these conversations, it's really about taking the energy up from the base chakra right to the crown and really referencing it from your point of view, how you see that kind of energy. So the first chakra that we work with is the base chakra, which is really about connecting to the earth, connecting to nature, which is so much a basis of your work. And connecting to the nature of who we are as well, our physical nature. So when you think of the base chakra, what comes up for you there?
For me, it's our foundation.
Yeah.
It's the base from which, as a human being, everything else is created from. That's what arises when you ask me that in this moment.
Yeah. Because it's kind of like the root of the base chakra is such an important one, because it actually connects us to actually being present and being in our bodies as well.
Yeah, the word safety is coming as you're talking, so it's that sense of feeling safe here on earth.
Yeah, being secure where we are, being secure on so many different levels as well, on the community level, on being able to sustain ourselves and to nourish ourselves. But the body part, the body and the nature part is such a huge, huge part, being in our bodies basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. An ever unfolding journey, I think.
Yes. And the vibrational element of it as well, because you work a lot with vibrational energy, don't you?
Yeah.
Through the sacred geometry work that you do, which I feel is very much about the energetics of physicality, basically, the energy of earth, basically, and showing the movement of the energy of earth.
Yeah. So the way I see it is on the geometric, it's like light forms and energy and geometric structures is the base then for matter to form around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really working on that energy vibration first for then matter to come into a coherent form around it.
It like magnetizes matter, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It brings matter into form.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that comes across a lot with your work, especially with the jewelry making element, but also the mandalas that I've seen that come forward from you. Seems to be very much in tune with sacred geometry, basically, even if it's like subconsciously, or maybe it is consciously the way that you do. Because I know with your jewelry making, it's very conscious, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's a level of consciousness with it when I'm making them, but it's almost like just playing with the land and what's around me, as well as just feeling what's coming from me and what's coming from the environment that I'm in as well. And just realizing that those two things aren't separate as well.
Which is moving right up to the second chakra, which is the sacral, because the sacral chakra is all about co-creation. The sacral chakra is all about merging our energy into the world. It's about feeling and emotion and about passion and about intimacy. But it's actually really about merging our energy into the world and allowing the energy of the world to merge with our energy as well. So when you think of the sacral, what comes up for you? Because I'm seeing that sort of like co-creation with nature that comes up with you, basically.
Yeah, definitely the sense of creation. And like you say, it is that co-creation. So there's that place in our sacral where we are meeting and merging with earth, and as spirits merging with earth. It's that place where we fuse, and when we're in alignment, then we are able to create like the dream of the earth is kind of here. Yeah, like we're plugging into that collective dream that we all desire for our reality.
Yeah,
that highest possible dream.
that's one of the things with the sacral, because the sacral for me, exactly like you were saying previously about being able to almost like surrender your own point of view enough to actually really see the world around you and to play with the world around you just as it is. So, you know, when you were talking about making those mandalas, and you were saying that basically the environment also actually informs you of what's going to be created. I feel like there needs to be an openness to be able to not being rigid in terms of what you want, but being really open to allow that energy to flow through.
Absolutely, and that feels so massive right now. Like, I'm really hearing that at the moment. That seems to be what's coming through to me.
Yeah.
It's that kind of energy. It's like that's where the solutions for like all world problems lay, is in that place of surrender to that it's not from the mind. So we have to really merge with the earth and merge with her consciousness and her awareness in order to hear the solutions, and maybe on the bigger scale, but also, you know, for our personal day-to-day lives, it's really listening to that voice that we haven't been taught how to listen to.
Very true, actually. And that's where I feel like the beauty of your work comes in, because it really allows us almost to put an air to the earth, but in a way that is actually just really playful and light, but quite profoundly deep as well, you know. Allows us to allow the earth to really inform us, allows us to hear the sound of the earth, of the earth through our own vibration as well, you know, how we interpret it. But one of the things that I actually came to terms with quite recently is how much the earth deserves our respect in that way, because it's got a wisdom that is always wanting to inform us. And we need that level of surrender and that level of kind of like openness to allow that wisdom to flow through and really guide us. And that happens a lot in the sacral chakra.
Yeah, and the word I'm hearing at the moment is innocence as well. It's like really coming into that place in a sense of innocence.
Yes.
Like not taking our big grown-up sensible self there. It's like our innocence and our playfulness and our inner child energy. I really feel that's what I'm seeing within myself at the moment. That's what's being asked of me, to come into this place with that innocence.
Yeah.
Remember to play. It's so serious. I can get really serious at times, you know, like, what's my mission? And, you know, I can get really serious, and time again I'm being asked to come back to that place of innocence and playfulness and joy.
Yeah, because we create our best work from that place as well, do you know, that work of surrender and innocence of the child, of the playful child.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we move up to the solar plexus, and I feel like sometimes a lot of the seriousness that we have in our lives, like, who am I, what am I going to do, where am I going, comes so much from the solar plexus. And it can get a little bit exhausting that way, because it's kind of like we're constantly trying to sort of like direct what we feel should be happening. And a lot of times when we allow the energy to come up from the earth, it really informs us of what resonates with us, and what, if we would only get out of the way, could flow in for us.
I had to laugh because I was so going against that one yesterday. I had this idea of what my day looked like yesterday, and I had to get these things done, and my energy body, my whole being was not in alignment with that, and really struggled with it. I had to keep reminding myself and get some help from a friend as well, guiding me back to, like, you know, what's your body saying right now?
Yeah.
And I think from this place as well, like, the more we tap into earth energy, it's not linear. It's kind of hard to describe in a way, but it's more of a spiral in a way. So the way that we do things happens in a different way it's not necessarily I need to do this thing and then that thing and then this will happen. It can be all over the place. So again, that's surrendering here, isn't it? Surrendering to that bigger, trusting in something bigger than ourselves and our minds.
Yes. And this for me is where that energy comes up, because we're so taught that the mind is what actually controls our identity. It's like, and our identity can then become a mental creation, and the mental creation is so brittle because it's not really tapping into the actuality of what we're resonating with. Do you know what I mean? So we could tell ourselves, I don't know, I could tell myself I'm an artist and really, really, really try to hone that because everybody else in my family is an artist, so I must be. Where ultimately everything about me is saying something completely different. I'm a chef, for example. And it's like I'm there trying to really reel myself into and tighten myself into this box. And this, I feel, is where the mind can sometimes kind of like really create problems for the solar plexus. Whereas if we were to reverse it and allow the energy of the earth to go, as I stand at the moment, what am I resonating with? The information, the level of information that comes up is a completely different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting to say that because in a way I kind of had a bit of this with my jewellery.
Yeah.
My jewellery was almost stopping me from going down another route that I knew that felt right. To really focus on doing more workshops with people and one-to-one sessions and holding groups. And I kept kind of, no, but I'm a jeweller. Or people see me as being a jeweller and people, that's what they think that I do. They think I just do that. And so, the more I listened to actually in this moment, what wants to happen.
And the thing for me as well is that it's ever changing in a way. Do you know what I mean? Because we're so expansive. I could say that what I do now hasn't been what I've done sort of like 10 years ago, and in a lot of ways these two characters are completely different. I was kind of like more in the corporate world, in marketing and advertising, completely different kettle of fish to what I do now. But yet everything that I've learned here has informed and it will always be part of who I am. And it's exactly the same for you. I think there's an element where you will use the energy of and the vibration that jewelry making will allow you to create for people, and you can almost use it like to integrate it into your workshops. It's a string, isn't it?
It's been an incredible tool for learning a lot about energy, and what can be created and what. I've learned a lot from it. I've learned a lot, and I know that I'm not putting it down and it's not going away. It's just, when I tune in, I'm being informed just to go over here and do this thing right now.
Yeah, and I feel like the eye that you've got particularly then brings something different to the group scenarios that you create, because you bring the eye of the sacred geometry, for example, and you're able to relate it into a group scenario that is yours, is your unique way of doing it. So that's, for me, it's kind of like being informed by the earth that way is so profoundly beautiful for the solar plexus, because we can relax more into what is resonating for us.
Yeah, beautiful, absolutely.
Yeah, so bringing this energy up to the heart, because the heart is where everything flows, basically. It's where things flow outwards and inwards. And the heart can be a really funny one, because the heart is obviously below the solar plexus, and if the solar plexus isn't flowing, it immediately hiccups the heart. Like you want to, but you're not. You want to. It's kind of like the mind is like this kind of like jerky forward back thing. Like you want to step forward, but you know that kind of thing.
That one, that energy a lot.
It's always like, like the kind of like restless child that basically is 1 foot to the next. It's like there's that's, and for me that the getting into the flow of the heart again is so relaxing. That energy that comes up, that's really grounding from the earth, that informs the heart that it's whatever is actually being expressed from the heart is exactly what needs to be expressed. It's so important because we can fight against the heart's expression so much, can't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've done that a lot. I'm almost an expert in that one now.
Yeah, I think we all are to a degree, because
So
the heart is not a convenient kind of energy always. Do you know what I mean? When your heart sort of is telling you to go down a route that is highly inconvenient and highly uncomfortable, like you just ripped your comfort blanket off, your duvet's off, and you're sort of like in a room and there's no heating. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like that. The heart can sometimes lead you in that way because you need to get out into the world, sort of thing.
yeah.
But there can be so much resistance to that uncomfortability, and to be able to trust what the heart is saying.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, it just brings to mind that idea of it not being linear as well. It doesn't necessarily make sense from the place of the heart. You know, it's not rational. It's got its own intelligence.
Yes.
Which for me, I very much see as the earth as well. I very much connect the heart to the earth.
Yeah.
When I do work with people, I'm often we connect from the heart to the heart of the earth. That's something that I always seem to do with my clients. And
it's amazing, because when you are grounded, when you're standing firmly where you are, the heart can radiate so much fuller, you know. It can actually really radiate to capacity because there's nothing stopping it. It's only when, to a large extent, you're on shaky ground, or you're on ground where like your mind is telling you should be on a different ground. So it's kind of like, but you're still staying on the same ground.
Yeah.
That the heart starts to get really confused and hiccupy in the middle of all of that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So it's really great to then come back, isn't it, and tune back into those lower chakras again, just to keep.
Absolutely.
I think at the moment, like just to plug in, keep bringing yourself back, keep bringing yourself back, because it's a real. We're forging new pathways at the moment. Like we don't know, we haven't had this knowing of how to use our heart center and how to use all of our centers in these ways. So I feel like it's a real daily practice, really, just to keep coming back here and checking in, and
in some cases a moment-to-moment practice as well.
Oh my God, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because it's like it can be so sometimes it can be so easy to get off your center. It happens in an instant, and one of the things that it's really becoming very paramount for me is to recognize those times, because previously it's kind of like everything that happened that way was really subconscious, and then I would leave a scenario feeling, you know, either drained or kind of like a bit low energy, or even sometimes high energy, you know, like, and in the moment now I'm starting to pay attention to when I get those instantaneous hits, like my energy's just dropped, where's this coming from, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that you're saying that, because that's really come up for me the last couple of days.
Yeah.
The last 2 days, I've just noticed where there was a couple of triggers that just took me out of my centre, and then I went off down this other path for quite a while, and then I was like, here, what am I telling myself that isn't true here?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So true. So actually coming up to the throat, because again, the throat for me is one of those that really needs us to be grounded and rooted in order to express our truth fully. Is that sort of sense of actually speaking from like the top of your lung here, where it's almost like panicked, anxious kind of speech, or speaking from like the depth of your perineum, let's say. It's kind of like the depth of who you are, where you're pulling that earth energy up and it's really informing everything on its way up for you to express that truth outwards. When you think of the throat and you think of it in relation to the earth, what comes up there?
Feels like such a deep energy, like you say, like, and I get this feeling of this kind of ancient feeling that comes up. I think there's so much work to be done here collectively for us to really know how to express ourselves and to know that it's safe. So it's like going right back to the root again, that actually we live in a time, or we live in a society in a time where it is safe for us to express. But I think many of us feel like it hasn't been safe.
Yeah.
and that maybe the things that we want to talk about are a little bit unusual. Especially, for me, with the earth energies, I've wanted to talk about elemental energies and fairy energies, and even in conscious community, it can still be quite taboo, or ET energies, or just like a broader, open, a bigger picture. So there's a lot of fear, I think, associated with expression and being vulnerable enough to be really who we truly are. So I think there's vulnerability as well that's there, which is actually really beautiful. We're actually far more powerful when we're in our vulnerability than when we're guarded against it.
Yeah. Well, vulnerability to a large extent is coming from the heart, isn't it? And so when we actually allow the heart to open up to actually really inform us, and we're speaking from that heartfelt place, we are speaking from a place that is flowing the truth of who we are. And that could either be met with an embrace, or it could be met with misunderstanding, let's say. And to be able to actually honor ourselves enough to be open to either. Do you know what I mean? Because we need to honor ourselves that way. I think that's where the vulnerability of the throat really comes into its own there. Because ultimately, I think to a large extent, as human beings, we've been taught to get along to a degree, but also to compromise ourselves in order to get along, and not to shake the boat up too much. So to be able to, and for me personally speaking, it doesn't necessarily need to be guns a-blazing and fists up, but to be able to express the truth of who we are, and to really kind of,
It's gentle, actually, and it's true. Just really gentle, isn't it? It doesn't have that defensiveness or that need to change anybody's mind. It's just a pure expression of who we just naturally are. It's soft and flowing.
Yes.
It's not it doesn't have to be gung ho, and that's more defensiveness, isn't it? Rather than just that.
Kind of like that sense of allowing the other person's expression to be theirs, and to honor their expression, even if it's the opposite of our own. And to really be okay with that. I mean, it takes a while, and sometimes for me it's still challenging to actually stay in my truth in the face of opposition, let's say, or in the face of opinion that's really opposite and loud to my own. But to honor myself because I know my truth, for me, doesn't necessarily mean to be for the other person, but for me, it's kind of like it's what counts. It's what I need to honor in my own resonance. It's a learning process, that, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and the solidity of the earth to come up to actually give us the ground to stand on, to honor that.
Yeah, for us to really know that we came here with a voice for a reason. That she's inviting us to have that playful expression.
Yes, absolutely. So moving up to the third eye, because the third eye for me is that sense of, and we're sort of like going more into the universal aspect, and I feel that there's always like a contrast between the earth and the universal. So that expansive airiness and that sort of like matter depth of the earth, basically, and the heart is always the dividing place between those 2 points, but it's also the place that allows those 2 points to flow in harmony. But when I think of the third eye, I think of it from that point of view of expansiveness and being able to see the bigger picture. And it's really interesting that you were mentioning sort of like the fairy element and the fairy energy, because it's kind of like it allows you that openness to see the fullness of the possibility of what's there. Do you know what I mean? To not kind of like just cage it in to what you feel most comfortable with, but inviting an expansion that allows yourself to be informed by something else.
Yeah, and there's so much within the unseen realm.
Yes.
There's so much magic that resides there. Yeah. And so that for me, very much the third eye is about peering into this other world that exists. That we've not been taught about, or it's been ridiculed, or we've been told it's fairy tales and it's not true. And I mean, it's amazing. Some of the images that I've seen are like fairy books, and that's because people had this vision. It was just more natural.
Yeah.
going back in history. Yeah, it's a very expansive place, isn't it? Once we open our third eye and we allow ourselves to see on other levels, then I mean, life takes on a whole new meaning.
Yes.
That's my experience.
Yes.
It's become so multidimensional and magical.
And we get informed on such a deeper level as well. You know, we can get informed by just matter and by communication with matter, but that's only one way of being informed. And I feel like the internal voice that we have is another way of being informed. But there's all these elements of energy that's continuously informing us, and the only thing that stops that information from actually being as expansive as possible is the filters of our own mind. So when we can take that off and just allow the possibilities, you know, the possibilities to exist, and allow ourselves to see impossibilities, I feel like that's, yeah.
Absolutely, and it comes back to that stage of innocence again.
Yes.
So, you know, like going into the world with wonder and curiosity, and, you know, like a child does. They don't have all these filters in place that they're, you know, as children we're able to see and perceive so much more. So for me, it's very much coming back into that place of innocence again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And playfulness. Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. When it comes to the third eye, playfulness is kind of like a prerequisite in a way. I mean, you don't have to tap into the third eye, but for me personally speaking, it's so much better when you're playful, because I feel like sometimes if we take the density into the third eye, it can get a little bit scary, because we're sort of like trying to figure out what is reality and what's not reality. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when that's that flow of playfulness and lightness with it, the possibilities have more of a chance of blossoming and blooming for us, basically.
Yeah, there's really a sense of like going in with the idea of forgetting everything that you've been taught.
Yes.
You know, it's like blank canvas.
Absolutely. So the final chakra is the crown chakra, and the crown for me is that universal element, is that element that connects us to everything and everything to us. But it's also that element that connects the earth to the universal and the universal to the earth, basically. It's from that level that we know ourselves as being far more than just a human case in a human body. And we know the earth as being also on its own journey that's around for like billions of years, that has a wisdom that surpasses what we can see in 3D form right now. So when you actually think about the crown and you think of it from the earth's view, what do you see?
Well, the word I get first of all is marriage. Coming together, like you say, that place of meeting. It's it's above, so below, kind of. As I'm seeing it now, it's like an integration point of the two energies, which is really interesting, because actually I would usually put that down lower, but right now that's how that looks.
Yeah.
Like it looks like this meeting point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we're merging, because we are, you know, there's the earth, but we are earth. You know, it's like our bodies are earth. Yes. They are made of all the elements, and so I like, for me, I see that very much golden light that comes in through the crown. That's how I see it, and so it's like that meeting point where that comes in and merges with matter.
You know, we can sometimes forget that. We can sometimes forget that we are, like, in this physical form, we are earth, you know. We are the manifestation of the earth, basically. Every element of who we are physically is a gift from the earth, isn't it?
Absolutely. I like the idea at times when I felt quite lonely, or I've been going through something, of it's like my spirit is being housed by matter, and matter being the mother. So it's like, actually my spirit is being held and loved, like, and, you know, nurtured by the mother.
Yes.
Like all the time.
Yes.
I'm just in this like embrace of love from the mother. It's like, wow, she loves us enough to give us a physical form, you know.
Oh my gosh, I've never actually heard that before, but that is so true. Because how beautiful is it when we're able to see our bodies in that way, as a gift from the mother, a gift of that sort of feminine, creative, expressive energy that allows us to be lovingly encased, you know, allows us to be lovingly expressed, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think if we can drop into that level of the body and actually how much our bodies love us,
Yes.
and because so often we think of illness as something wrong, but actually it's just a loving message. It's something that just is asking for our attention and our respect and our, it's a conversation. It's the body's language, and yeah, I really like playing with that idea of and really recognizing that we are the earth.
Yes,
it's really, yeah,
and
really,
we are
really
a gift as well, a gift of the earth, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about our disconnection from source often. And that's what I think of here sometimes. It's like if you're really disconnected from your source. But I think we can bring it back to, first of all, reconnecting with our material.
Yes.
And then actually that just connects everything. Because
absolutely.
There's no separation between spirit and matter. It's the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my God, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for bringing your loveliness and your lightness and your beauty.
Thank you. It's such an honor. It's a joy.